You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Canon Fodder. Here are your hosts, Mark Mulcaster, Brian Cameron, Matt Booker, and Mark Newbold.
Grab your bookmarks, it's time to take cover as we unleash the Canon Fodder over the Star Wars galaxy of literature. Canon Fodder is the home on Fantha Tracks Radio for everything Star Wars literature, from comics, books, magazines, partworks, and everything else that comprises the expanded universe of Star Wars. Joining me, Brian Cameron, this month is Mark Newbold.
Good evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are.
Well, that was a little bit Truman Show there. And we've also got Matt Booker.
Hi.
And Mark Mulcaster.
Hello there.
So it's been a little bit of a extended holiday for us over the summer. We're kind of combining two shows together as we catch up on July and August. So what's everyone been up to in the past few weeks since we last spoke?
I have been, well, obviously the site's been going well. Lots of news, weirdly, considering the whole world seems to be locked behind closed doors at the moment, or gradually creeping them open. Getting back into the comics now that they're sort of rolling back out, so that's been fun to get back into, do some reviews on the site. But yeah, busy, and sweating buckets because it's really warm.
Working solidly every single day, having Sundays off, that's it. Getting a bit monotonous now, but plodding on.
Yeah, I've been working quite a bit as well. But yeah, like Mr. Newbold said, I'm sweating buckets today. I feel like I'm sweatier than like a Hutt's arse crack. If they want,
They must have something.
There's got to be something down there.
We've seen him eat. We've seen him eat. So we've got to have. Yeah.
I mean, actually, so earlier on today, I brought a filing cabinet. And so I've been transferring all my comics from long boxes into a filing cabinet, which I thought, oh, that'd be fine. There'd be like loads of space and stuff. And actually, there's tons of space. I can actually fit in each drawer like 2 long boxes worth of comics. So I'm just like well happy at the moment because I'm clearing loads of space in my collection room for more stuff.
I've got the joys of during this heat being made to self-isolate, which, to be fair, I've been doing for the past few months. But I was contact traced because I was at a location that had then had a COVID outbreak last week. So I'm now halfway through a 10-day, I think it is, 10 or 14 days, I can't even remember, of a self-isolating. So as far as I can go is the bottom of the garden. And so I've been outside enjoying the sun today, and that's about as far as I can get. On this month's show, the big news is the announcement of a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back, for the 40th anniversary. We've received the first chapters for the High Republic, and we also had the announcement of the Mandalorian publishing programme. So we're going to cover all that news before we get stuck into a review of the new ongoing Bounty Hunters comic series. So with all that in mind, let's get stuck in and chew over the latest fodder. To celebrate the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, Del Rey have announced a new anthology series following on from last time's Certain Point of View, which celebrated A New Hope. We now have one celebrating The Empire Strikes Back. It's going to feature 40 stories by 40 different authors, reimagining in the same manner the classic sequel through the eyes of background characters. We saw a whole long list of authors announced for it. Proceeds are going to be donated to the charity First Book, and we've also got cash donations from Penguin Random House, Disney, and a donation, I think, of children's books worth up to £1 million as well. There was a huge range of authors announced, a lot of them who've worked in Star Wars before, some of them it's the first time. Did any names stand out? And what characters do you guys want to see?
For me, I'm very curious to see what Amy Ratcliffe does, because as far as I'm aware, that's her first fictional fictional book. Obviously, she worked on Women of the Galaxy. There's other stuff she's got coming out, Art of Galaxy's Edge, and other things that we'll probably talk about later. But in terms of a fictional short story, I'm really curious to see what Amy does. As for characters, I'm open. I mean, Empire's weird. There's not a massive amount of characters in Empire, apart from the obvious mainstays that we know. It's not one of those films that's loaded with characters. Like the Cantina's got loads of characters, and Jabba's Palace has got loads of characters. There's not really a place in Empire apart from sort of Echo Base and elements of Bespin, I suppose. But outside of Wilrow Hood and the Ugnaughts, there's not an awful lot. So I'll be curious to see what they do.
I'm looking forward to Gary Whitta and John Jackson Miller, and I really hope they do a Dak Ralter storyline.
Yeah. I was going to say John Jackson Miller, because is this going to be the first time he's published anything since the new canon's taken over? I think like the first one from for like a certain point of view for New Hope, it's a little bit kind of like off the wall in places, so it's quite hard to know exactly what they're going to cover. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of like monologue by a lonely wampa, or some kind of like story based around like Tauntauns or something, because they are a little bit zany. Because I remember there was that story in the first one about like a stormtrooper who had this kind of bizarre fascination with like a Dewback, and also a certain, I think, high-level Moff on the Death Star who was basically using a mouse droid as kind of like a form of like dating kind of like robot or something, if memory serves correctly. So they're a bit zany and a bit bonkers. So it should hopefully be a bit fun. Hopefully,
like the Dianoga story as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's so yeah. I mean, it depends which way they take it, but yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fun seeing what Amy kind of can produce, because like Mark said, it's her first fictional kind of outing. So, but it's a good it's a good, strong, solid list.
Yeah, Tom Angleberger doesn't strike me as one who do that kind of book. He's always done the kid stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The name that jumped out at me was Adam Christopher, because as we're going to get to in a little bit, he's just signed on to do a Mandalorian novel. So this is going to be his first foray into Star Wars, and you presume that his work on this preceded him signing on to do the Mando novel. So was his work on this so good that made them want to work with him a little bit more?
Well, I can imagine this book, they'd have started working on it before they'd even published the last one.
Yeah.
Or soon after. It's a lot of 40 stories is a lot to get in on. So they'd have cracked onto it fairly early, getting on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the idea in terms of the characters. It's a much tougher film to pick a character out, certainly ones that are known and named as background characters. So I'm not entirely sure what character I want to hear more of. I'd quite like to hear more about the rebel commanders on Hoth. They're the guy's name escapes me. Who was the commander on Hoth?
General Riken.
That's the one. He's kind of never really been explored to any great detail. Maybe something from his eyesight might be worthwhile.
Yeah. You got Sterling, you got Torin Farr.
You've got IG-88, Bosk, Boba Fett, Zuckuss and Fulham, and Dengar. So you can imagine...
an Admiral Ozzel story.
Admiral Ozzel, yeah.
Yeah.
If they kind of do it, I guess it will be kind of done in a similar kind of way. So each story kind of moves the narrative on a bit in the overall kind of like book. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see, all of them have some kind of story of some description.
Hi, this is Gareth Edwards, director of the best standalone Star Wars film since Caravan of Courage, called Rogue One. You're listening to Panther Tracks. Enjoy.
More content has come out through the Star Wars Show Book Club. Since the last show, we've had episodes covering Shattered Empire and the legends of Luke Skywalker. We've also saw 2 excerpts come out for the Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising, which comes out in September. Anyone looking forward to the Thrawn book, and has anyone had a chance to read the excerpts that have come out so far?
Yeah, I had a read of the second excerpt, which was it was typical Zahn, typical Thrawn, battle tactics, capital ship combat and stuff like that. Yeah, I think me and Mark talked about it on Making Tracks before. You know, the thing with Thrawn as a character is he's so clever and so 3 steps ahead of everybody else. It's difficult to write him as a sympathetic character because he is so clever. He's such a master chess player. This excerpt was similar. You think he's made a mistake, but it turns out he hasn't. But anything's on. I think now our eyes are kind of starting to turn back. You know, we're nearly at the 30th anniversary of Heir to the Empire, so we're getting towards that big anniversary of sort of looking back at that time. And great time as a Star Wars fan when he started releasing those books. And just recently, I was on Fantha Down Under talking about Truce at Bakura, which was, you know, the book that came out pretty much straight after the Thrawn trilogy. So I think eyes are looking back to that sort of era. And I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to make the effort. I think I'll probably try and do it as an audio book this time. Similar to Mark, I'm generally on quite a long commute, so I'm going to make better use of the time and start listening to more audio stuff, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Timothy Zahn basically is Thrawn when you think about it. I mean, he's kind of like just written so many novels about the character now. It's probably hard to delineate where one begins and the other one ends, and so on and so forth. You know, paint Timothy Zahn blue, give him some red eyes, and he's probably Thrawn in some respects.
A little bit shorter.
And a little bit shorter, yeah. But not. I think Thrawn's got better hair if I'm remembering correctly. But,
correct. Yes, that would be correct.
But I mean, as a rule, I don't tend to read any like excerpts from the books. I just like to kind of just go straight in. But yeah, I mean, it will be curious because he's setting up the whole Chiss ascendancy, which should be interesting because this is kind of like an area that we've touched on before in Legend, but this is going to be really good to kind of really flesh out that whole kind of region of the galaxy.
Yeah,
I kind of agree that some of my favourite Star Wars stuff was the West End Games Adventure Journals stuff that he did, where he kind of touched on the Chiss and Thrawn's early years, and he kind of did like a 4-part issue as well with Michael Stackpole, which I loved as well. So I'm interested to see where he goes with this, although I'm not hugely excited by the fact of more Thrawn tales. I kind of feel, I don't know where the drive comes from. Is it Del Rey saying Timothy Zahn?
I think it just sells.
Or is it Timothy Zahn want to do more Thrawn stuff? I'm not sure. I would love to see him do something else.
Yeah.
I think he's a great writer. So I'm not hugely excited by this, but often that means I'll be pleasantly surprised.
He's probably one of the few authors that could go to Del Rey or Lucasfilm and say, "I've got an idea for a trilogy about this specific character," and they go, "Yeah, the typewriter's yours. Knock yourself out." I can't imagine there's many other authors have that latitude. That he's earned that latitude, hasn't he? Of all the authors,
he's the most bankable, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of put him up on a bit of a pedestal because, I mean, yeah, he's written a lot about Thrawn. And it would be interesting just to, even if he was to do a bit more of a focus on maybe even like Pelion or somebody like that. Just it could be another character that he's created that isn't necessarily Thrawn. But it does kind of feel like now that we potentially know the fate of the Grand Admiral by the end of Rebels, it's, I think there's probably not too many more stories left in there to tell, I don't think.
We got our first look at Star Wars Dark Legends, which has just arrived into people's hands. This is the follow-up to the acclaimed Myths and Fables from the creative team of writer George Mann and artist Grant Griffin. We're getting 7 new tales, this time with a dark, spooky theme to them. Just out July 28th. StarWars.com showed us a little glimpse inside. Has anyone got the book in their hands yet? Anyone excited for it? I know I am, because I was a huge fan of the Myths and Fables novel, so I'm excited to get this one.
Literally just got my hands on a copy of Myths and Fables, so I've not yet started reading that, but that's pretty soon on the list of the pile that's nearly as tall as me now. We have got a couple of reviews of Dark Legends on Fantha Tracks, though, so people can have a little review or a little read of some of our reviews on there as well. But the artwork looks amazing. That's my big draw. It just looks fantastic. So looking forward to tucking into it when I get it.
Yeah, agreed. Looks good. Can't wait to get a copy. First one was really good, and this is on the list to get, but just haven't got around to picking up yet.
It is literally in my hands right now. So it's I know, and it's I haven't started reading it. It's 200 pages. It's kind of about it's shorter than A5 in terms of height. It's quite a short, kind of stumpy little book. The pages have kind of got this kind of parchment, kind of like in universe kind of feel, a bit like the some of the like the Jedi Guide, the guide to the Sith.
The holochrony books.
Yeah, the holochrony books. So it's got that kind of feel to it. I would imagine.
Go to page 72. Read us the first bit at the top of the page.
Page 72.
Ooh.
Okay, let me go. Why page 72? Was that going to be
Don't know.
obvious?
Random.
Okay. Angry at himself for getting carried away, he flopped onto his bed. But once there, he failed to return to sleep.
Okay.
If you can't buy the book after reading that, what else is going to make you want to buy that book?
Mark Thompson, eat your heart out, right?
Hello.
But yeah, it's a lovely looking book, and it's kind of got this kind of fabric kind of bind on it as well. So it's meant to be a bit kind of in universe, isn't it, in that kind of respects. But I reckon it's probably an afternoon's read. If that, it is quite a small book, and I can't remember for the life of me. I know I've got the Myths and Fables. I audio booked that as well, but I don't know if that was bigger.
It was. It was bigger.
It was big. Yeah, this is kind of like oddly kind of like smaller, so shorter, but hopefully it should still be a good read.
Just saying that, guys. My copy of Myths and Fables isn't that big, so this must be really small. Unless
it
it's
is.
in a second print
It's a completely different resize, because if you're going to do a sequel or something, and people are going to put it on the shelves next to each other, you might as well irritate them by making them different sizes.
Different sizes.
You know what I mean?
Picking on you, Brian.
When you were designing the book, maybe pick up the original and have a see if it's going to match. If the typeface is going to fit next to it. These are the things that get collectors like me.
Yeah.
Can you tell?
Yeah. I mean, as kind of like, if I don't know if you had them, but they did those Tops books, those kind of hardback books. Of the Tops cards.
With the extra cards in the back.
So it's shorter than that, and it's shorter in height than the Shakespeare, the Star Wars Shakespeare books. So but it's wider. It's probably the same width as those Tops ones, but yeah, it's going to bug the hell out of me. But I put my books in release order, so it won't sit straight next to Myths and Fables, but it will still just look a little bit odd and out of place, and probably get lost a little bit on the bookshelf.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, a Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
We've had a couple of solicitations from Marvel since we last spoke. We've had the September and October ones come out. In September, we can expect one of each of the ongoing series, with Star Wars 6, Darth Vader 5, Bounty Hunters 5, Dr. Aphra 4. In October, add 1 to each of those numbers in terms of comics, but we will also get a few trades in October. We're going to finally get the Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we're going to get Star Wars Volume 1, The Destiny Path, as well as Bounty Hunters Volume 1 and Darth Vader by Greg Pak Volume 1, Dark Heart of the Sith. Obviously, all we're getting at the moment is ongoings. There's no word yet on the Rise of Skywalker adaptation. Perhaps they're pretending it never happened, like me. Anything on that list?
Didn't the artist come out and say that something was happening though? That he
I don't think he really knows, other than the fact that he's done the artwork and he's probably been paid.
See, my thought, it may just go straight to graphic novel at this point.
Yeah, throw it out at Christmas, be done with it. Anything on that list there exciting people? I guess I'm excited for the Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I did like that as a spin-off kind of mini-series within the ongoing. Anything in there?
It seems relevant. Yeah, it's agreed. It seems relevant, especially given that we know we've got the show coming. So anything Obi-Wan right now, heading into 21 and pushing on to 22, I guess, when the series arrives, seems to make all the sense. So
is that the one-shots from the original first one?
Yes.
I think it's issue 7, issue 14, the Mike Mayhew ones.
Those ones. Yeah.
So anything like that sounds great. Bounty Hunters, I've literally read issue 1 when it came out, like however many months ago. So it's kind of in the exactly. So so that's kind of in the rearview mirror a bit. So I'm looking forward to rereading that and then tucking into the big bundle that you sent me, Matt, because at the moment I've only read issue 2 of Star Wars, which I've just reviewed on the site. So I'm working my way through the Star Wars backlog, and quite enjoyed that. But of those ones that Brian's just mentioned, yeah, it's going to be the Obi-Wan trade for me.
I think it's a continuation of Bounty Hunter because I've just sat and reread. Well, I've read all 3 today, and I'm enjoying that series. So that book's carrying on. I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, me too. Funnily enough, I just read 2 and 3 of Bounty Hunters. I probably should have reread, number 1 because I couldn't for the life of me remember anything about it. So, which isn't particularly helpful when you have such a large gap between it. But that's what happens. It can't be helped. So it's just nice to start to get a more regular release schedule back up. I think.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I bet. So
but a lot of Marvel books did carry on coming out, but like their core books, like their main all their Star Wars books, Star Wars and like the main X-Men books and Spider-Man books, they weren't coming out at all. And they just canned a lot of stuff. So it's weird.
I pay for my comics monthly, so my comic bill for the month just gone was only like £15 or something. I think I'm only expecting 4 issues again. So
yep.
But that's enough to kind of tide things over, I guess, keep things moving along.
Talking about moving along, let's move on to discussing the High Republic. I guess in a couple of weeks' time we would have been expecting to sit down at Celebration and hear a lot more about it. So far we've had a few art teases, but since the last show we've had chapter 1 of the first novel, Light of the Jedi, released. General opinions on how you feel that the series is being shaped.
I'm looking forward to it. I like the fact that they're hitting the ground running. I know it's the mainstay reference for certainly guys of our age to think, well, that kind of reminds me a little bit of Shadows when the book and the comic and everything else came out. But it has kind of got that vibe to me. Obviously, completely different era, completely different intent. But I like the thought of, a mainline novel, a young reader's novel, an IDW and a Marvel series. They really are going for it as a literary era. And if they can build up some big storylines and fold in a few, obviously it's set on Coruscant, but fold in a few familiar waypoints and places and not so much characters. Obviously Yoda's going to be in it at some point because of his age, and you kind of think, well, if they put Yoda in, they'll put Maz in, and they'll work these things in. But generally, they've already said that Saina Staros's ancestors in it, Lor Santeca's ancestors in it. So there's touch points that we know. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think it could be something really special if they do it right. And of course, if it works and it becomes something that people consider a thing, inverted commas, then Disney, it's all about the coin, isn't it? They might go, oh, maybe there's an animated series in this. Maybe there's more to this than we initially thought. So it is really one of those watch this space kind of things. The small excerpts, I think it was the attack on the station. It was interesting. Obviously not familiar with any of the characters, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
It seems like we should know a lot more about it by now, but with them putting it all off a little bit because of COVID and everything, I kind of forgot it was even happening, really, because I thought the comics would have been out by now, but obviously not. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to delving into a new era, but it's a bit more of a longer wait, and we'll see later on kind of thing, isn't it?
One book I picked up this past month and I stuck into reading straight away was Brian Muir's The True Story of the Stormtroopers. Brian Muir, obviously someone that we've probably all met at conventions. Great guy. This is his 3rd book. I've got all 3. And he goes back in really interesting detail on the making of the Stormtrooper helmets. Huge range of images in it as well. Images I've never seen before as well. Has anyone else picked up this book or intending on?
I'm thinking about it, definitely. Like I say, he's a great bloke. Brian and Lindsay are always good fun at conventions. I think I was one of the first people to interview when he came back on the convention scene in 2006 at the NEC. So I really should dig into those books because I know there's going to be great detail because he's a good storyteller. So yeah, it's definitely on the list. Certainly, it's a bit of Star Wars history, especially going back to as far back as his knowledge and history goes into the saga. Yeah.
His was it Vader Maker, but his first book, that was really interesting, and he does go into a lot of detail. And I don't think it's like not a secret that he's not a huge fan of obviously the legal case and what happened between Ainsworth and Lucasfilm. So I'd be interested to get his take on it. Like his we've all spoken to him at conventions and stuff, and being a costumer, he goes into quite a lot of detail when you meet him face to face. So this is a book which I'm hoping to get for my birthday.
Hello, I'm Ahmed Best, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
July saw Comic Con at Home 2020. Normally, San Diego Comic Con is a place of big news. This year, they were trying to do a virtual edition. Some news that came out of it. We had the Darth Vader Marvel title was confirmed. It was going to have a crossover with the Rise of Skywalker. We got a little few tidbits about the High Republic, namely that we're going to see Avon Staros, who fans will be familiar with the name Sana Staros, a slight connection there. We got the big announcement of the Art of Galaxy's Edge, which is going to be authored by Amy Ratcliffe. And we had a couple of panels as well with a lot of interesting takes from authors, namely the Lucasfilm Publishing Stories from a Galaxy Far, Far Away, and also a panel on the Dr. Aphra audio book. So looking at the show as a collective, how did you guys find the experience of the virtual con?
I know it didn't do very well, did it? It kind of tanked in terms of numbers. I think in terms of comparing it, and you can't compare because it's not a fair comparison. Comparing it to the regular San Diego Comic Con, I think internet traffic was down like 99% in terms of trending topics and such. But that being said, it's the first time they've done it, and like all of us, like anybody who's tried to do an online convention, you know, we've been involved in a couple. It's difficult because you've never done it before and there's no template really. So I know DC are doing their own sort of DC Dome, I think, or DC Fest or something coming up. You know, that's probably where they'll get all their big news out, and other places will have got avenues to push big news, like, you know, Star Wars has got This Week in Star Wars and the Star Wars show. So it's weird that they would want to give all the news away at an online convention under the name of San Diego when hopefully next year there'll be a physical thing. But yeah, it was interesting enough. The panel was okay for what it was, you know. It's never going to be the same as being in Hall H though, so it's no comparison really. It's no substitute.
Well, I don't think any of these panels would happen in Hall H, but I was at the other end of the convention centre and there was 2 people to get through, and my internet was down, so I couldn't even watch it. There was just too many people there to hog in the internet posting selfies with slave layer men and stuff, so I couldn't watch all of it. I watched some bits of it, and bits I did that I was interested in, I quite enjoyed. But yeah, very, very strange world we live in now, I suppose, and it's the way of doing things.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, really, isn't it? I mean, I suppose like we actually found when we were doing Empire 40, the good thing or the benefit about doing an online thing is it's a lot easier to schedule people. You know, you don't need to kind of physically get them in the same room. And you know, obviously it's still tricky when you're doing something live, but if you're doing a pre-record of a panel and stuff, then it's a lot easier to kind of get it set up, recorded, and you know, just kind of like scheduled into the stream.
Re-edit things, and if Boris says the wrong thing, you can get them to say this. Oh no, you don't get them to say the same thing again.
Yeah, you can just cut them out if, like, you know, a leading member of the cast tells you know, a whole, you know, in like a panel that, you know, one of the other members is going to die or something like that, you know, as happened in, you know, Celebration Europe 3. But you know, it is just how they do it, isn't it now? And I suppose San Diego felt like they probably had to do something. Bear in mind, it felt like it was quite late in the day before they actually cancelled the event. I'm kind of inclined to be like, you know, something's better than nothing, I think. But yes, it's odd that Lucasfilm have kind of like carried on with the San Diego kind of avenue to release news when they could just do it themselves.
I just thought the whole thing fell flat, I think. Especially because they put the videos out as YouTube videos, so anyone with the common sense will skip through the first 40 minutes and catch the last 5, but if there's going to be any announcements, that's when they make it.
I think they should have duly put the videos on the San Diego stuff and then also on their own Star Wars channel.
Yeah,
and they would have got a lot more traction because people subscribe to channels.
Yeah, the whole thing just seemed odd. Always nice to hear authors talking in general, and having a group chat was kind of interesting. But it didn't blow me away. The news on the Art of Galaxy's Edge, great. Love to see the work has gone into that, because a huge chunk of that is going to be, rather than Lucasfilm creation, it's going to be Disney art creation, which gives a different kind of perspective on things.
It seems like they had a big thing whacked up for Galaxy's Edge this year with all the merch coming out and everything, and it was all a bit of a damp squib, wasn't it?
don't know where the crowds went. Just disappeared.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly on, something Star Wars related, but a little bit different. Oscar Isaac is venturing into the world of comics. He's going to be working with Legendary Comics to develop his first comic. It's going to be entitled Headwounds Sparrow. Isaac's going to develop the original series by creator Bob Johnson with a story by John Alvey. The three are close childhood friends. Will any of you guys be picking this up due to its Star Wars connection, or was there anything about the comic itself that made you think, that interests me?
Maybe to my detriment, I only read Star Wars comics, so I don't see there being much for me to probably want to pick it up, unless you guys say it's awesome, and then I might do.
Yeah, I mean, there's been guys who've done comics before. Mark Hamill did Black Pearl way back, and obviously Anthony Daniels wrote Protocol Offensive, and has been involved in comics. That Star Wars comic for Dark Horse, even though Ryder Wyndham probably wrote it, to be honest. So there's been people who've done stuff, and in other genres, there's been Trek guys that have done comics and books. So there's always going to be a crossover interest. I don't know. I mean, it depends on whether or not I want to fund Oscar Isaac to buy another house. I don't know. I'm not sure. I might. I mean, JJ did that comic with his son recently, the Spider-Man
Well,
comic.
they've done 2 issues and they've still not finished it.
Well, that's probably not a bad thing, because the first issue, I reviewed it for Starburst, and it was not good. It was a vanity project. So there was nothing about it that leapt out at me. It's just change for change's sake, So it was very
Peter
average.
Parker with an Abu Hamza claw hand when all his mates are the best people in the world in the galaxy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
give him a proper arm. Yeah.
You're listening to Fantha Tracks. Flip through the galaxy of literature with Canon Fodder hosts Brian Cameron, Matt Booker, Mark Newbold, and Mark Mulcaster.
Count me in.
Spin round the rim with Desert Planet Discs. Your musical journey through the space lanes with your hosts, Carl Bayless and Greg Robertson.
The hottest tunes this side of Mos Eisley.
Get the latest news, interviews, reviews, and much more on Making Tracks with your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
Like an Ewok battle wagon out of control.
Join hosts Claire Henry and a rotating panel of guest hosts for the podcast that's full of hope. Planet Leia.
I love you. I know.
It's time to head south with the Fantha from Down Under, Adam O'Brien.
Oh, g'day, mate. How you going?
Start your engines with Paul Naylor and Mark Newbold as they lift the hood on starships, airspeeders, swoops, capital ships, and more from across the cosmos. And for everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark fanthatracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
If you don't want to fund a house for Oscar Isaac, but you do want to fund one for Mark Newbold, the next 6 issues of Star Wars Insider have been announced. Coming out September 1st, October 6th, November 24th, January 26th, March 16 and April 27. So some delays there, issues 197 through 202. But Mark, I'm sure you're working on lots of content for those 6 editions.
Yeah, there's plenty going on. It's weird, issue 200 should have come out at Celebration. So initially, the stuff that I was working on back in sort of February, March, April for that issue was all about, hyping up for issue 200 at Celebration. So, and obviously the world's changed, as you've mentioned a few times. So everything's been stepped back. It's been announced, this issue 197 has got Kenneth Colley interview that I did, and it's part 1 of a 2-part that I did with Brian Herring and Dave Chapman. And Brian constantly texts and says, "When's that bloody issue out?" So it's like, well, I don't know, I really don't know. But so thankfully, Chris at Insider has posted the news, and like you just read out, giving us a hint of what's coming over the next few months. Just to say as well, Chris will be coming on to Canon Fodder hopefully very soon to talk about future issues of Insider. So we should be speaking to him very soon.
That was a superb impersonation as well.
Thank you.
It was spot on, Heather.
Talking of work continuing, the Star Wars Archives episodes 1 to 3, 1999 to 2005. The work is continuing. Paul Duncan, the author, gave an update on his Twitter, saying he's just finished the text and captions for Chapter 3, which is Attack of the Clones, and he's away for a pizza. When he comes back, he'll be working on Revenge of the Sith. Still on target to come out fall 2020 from Taschen. anyone excited for that book? Because I know I am.
Massively.
The first edition for the original trilogy, phenomenal.
Beautiful.
I actually find the background on the prequels a lot more interesting because they kind of knew what they were getting into in some degree, and things never necessarily went as expected in the prequels, which kind of makes it a more interesting behind-the-scenes story for me. But what do you guys think?
Same, exactly the same. We know so much more about the original trilogy, don't we? Because, it's been around longer and it's the original trilogy. But the prequel trilogy, for so long, had its detractors and, and mixed sort of reception across the board. And now I think because we're that far removed, 20th anniversary of Phantom last year and, just looking back, it's become, it's sort of starting to step almost towards or edge towards being almost a vintage era because of the time, the gap that's between the start of it and now. And you think back to 94 when he started right in the beginning, that's over 25 years ago. So, there is a big nostalgia, and it's George's Star Wars. We're in a new era now. So it makes you even more nostalgic for times past. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it really is. So yeah, and the first book, like you guys just said, was so good. So really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm just thinking I might have to reinforce my coffee table because that first one it's a big book. But I mean, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about The Empire Strikes Back 40 years on, and a lot of the stories have been told, but the prequels, just because of the mixed kind of feelings from the fans and stuff when they first came out, they don't really kind of get the same kind of coverage, and I think they really do deserve to be delved deeper, especially now. It's like Mark says, now that we're in a new era and it's not a Lucas era, I think it's more important than ever just to be able to get as much information about that time period between 99 and 2005, when they were working and releasing the prequels. I mean, it's a bit curious that they're starting at 1999, at least with the date, because obviously, like Mark said, the work for episode 1 started 5 or 6 years before that.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping there's going to be still quite a lot of coverage of the Phantom Menace development, and it's not just kind of the back end of it.
The Dr. Aphra book is out. We've all been listening to it over on StarWars.com. Sarah Kunn has given an interview where she goes into the background behind making it. I've really enjoyed the audio drama. I think it's something we should probably review in a future show. But just general opinions?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, I kind of liked Dooku, but it just kind of dragged a little bit in places where this was just Aphra, but in audio. And I mean, Emily Wu Zeller did an absolutely fantastic job as the Crazy Doctor. I thought she was awesome. I mean, the whole cast is just great. I mean, whenever you get Mark Thompson and Jonathan Davis in the same booth together, it's you get just some really good audio. And I think it kind of felt like this is definitely setting up potentially a sequel, because it did kind of I mean, the story was basically her involvement in like the Star Wars and the Darth novel, the Darth Vader comic series from like 2015. So it was kind of a recap. It was kind of like her recounting her kind of escapades in a similar way to like the Calrissian Chronicles from Solo. So that was quite fun, and kind of getting those points when she'd kind of talk about her relationship with Sana Staros, and then she'll say something a little bit sappy, so she'd be like, mark that for deletion later and stuff like that. So I thought it was really fun. Just a really good, well-produced book.
In other literature news, Star Wars: The Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark, which is due out August 25th, has been getting some promotion over on StarWars.com, where the authors have been discussing the book. We're going to see an anthology of 11 stories by 11 different authors, so head on over there to find out a little bit more. Showing that there's still life in the comic book industry, Star Wars Issue 3 and The Rise of Kylo Ren Issue 1 have gone back to press, so you can pick those up in your comic book stores now. Amy Ratcliffe, who we spoke about earlier with her Art of Galaxy's Edge novel, also has a new book out, The Jedi Mind, which is into the medical school of thought of mindfulness. If that's something that intrigues you, she's going to give it a Star Wars twist. Landing on UK bookshelves this week is Star Wars Magazine issue 62. It's going to come with a Stormtrooper minifigure, and as an extra bonus, either a Star Destroyer or Darth Maul Sith Infiltrator or a TIE Striker, which means I'm going to have to put a mask on and go to 3 different stores to get 3 different variants. It's also going to be cram full of the usual puzzles, posters and comics. But the major news this month was the announcement of a Mandalorian publishing program.
Long overdue.
Yeah, we're going to see a whole host of stuff to support season 2 of The Mandalorian. We are going to get an original novel, which was originally announced for this Christmas, but it's been kicked back 10 months, written by Adam Christopher. It'll be out in autumn 2021, and if you look online at the listings at the moment, we're showing dates between October and November, depending on what site you go to. We're also going to get Art of the Mandalorian, written by Phil Stosiak, and all the art from Doug Chang will be in there. And we're going to have tie-in comic book series from IDW and Marvel. Haven't been given too much details about that, other than the fact that IDW's is going to be focused on the merchandise and child. We're also going to get publications, the usual magazines, novelty and colouring stuff, activity books from Titan Studio Fun, Crayola for the first time, Thunder Bay Press, and Disney Publishing Worldwide, as well as Little Golden Books and Screen Comics retelling of Season 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're certainly making up for the lack of Mandalorian time products for Season 1.
I think they just churned out a couple of colouring in books and poster books, didn't they?
Yeah, which I'm not even 100% sure if I got the poster book yet. I think that's been pushed back, at least through Amazon.
I managed to pick it up. I'm 99% sure it went on a shelf somewhere.
I mean, I think the art of the Mandalorian is going to be a good read. So those kind of books always are definitely worth picking up anyway. So, as long as we get it before Christmas, that's the main thing.
We've already seen loads of it, the end credits, haven't we? They kind of spoiled us.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, but I read those are, maybe 10 or 12 photos from each episode. They must have done tons and tons. Yeah. I mean, I'm just curious to see the the evolution of the of the child, basically, because I bet there's some really bizarre and slightly left field kind of takes on that. That's, kicking around somewhere, and even just stuff like
different push chairs.
Yeah, different prams. Yeah,
different nose flutes.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, for all we know, there might have been a drawing of the Mandalorian with one of those kind of baby carriers on his, so he's kind of like got the baby on his front chest, carrying him around, which would be quite cute. But yeah, I mean, love those kind of art styles books, so can't wait for that one.
The one thing that kind of puzzles me is the whole novel idea, because it goes back to the Boba Fett thing, where they always want to do Boba Fett content because obviously it's sold. He's supposed to be kind of this man of mystery, and if you do a novel on him, you kind of want to hear what he's thinking, which kind of defeats the purpose of a lot of what they're trying to achieve in the TV program. And likewise, a comic book series on the child. It's going to sell because what's not selling? It's got the child on it. But what's it going to do?
With the child, they can only go cute. I used to get Gru the Wanderer back in the day, and there was a backup strip called Roberto, which was his dog. And it was just his dog doing these weird little sort of 4-panel, almost like a Andy Capp sort of comedy thing. And they were wonderful. They were brilliant for what they were. But I can't see them doing anything sort of substantial with the child. What can they do? It's got to be like a Star Comics sort of cute thing. And with the Mandalorian, Matt knows better than anyone. Mando's not a million miles from Fett. He's quiet. He's not heavy on words. He says what he means. He's pretty straight to the point. you say too much and show too much. You know, he is like Jeremy said, he's the man with no name. You know, so you give too much away, and the mystique of the character just gets chiseled. I personally don't think they need to do comics and books based on the Mandalorian yet. I don't think there's any need, but art of books and sketchbooks and all that sort of design stuff, chew through that, you know. Like Mark said, yeah, totally. You know, like Mark said, all the images you get at the end of the episode. I mean, I personally think they were probably made for the episodes. I don't think they're you know what I mean? They're bespoke made for the episode. But nevertheless, there's clearly tons of stuff out there. So that's what I want to see.
Yeah,
I think a child comic would be, you know, in the core Star Wars book a couple of years back, and in the back of the Poe Dameron ones, we had those extra 2 or 3 page stories about the droids. Yeah, the Scott Young stuff.
Yeah,
I think that kind of stuff would work very well for the child as a backup strip to a Mandalorian book, but exploring other characters in the Mandalorian lore. But you can't do too much with him or the other Mandos.
The original announcement, especially as it alluded to the Marvel series, was it would be set in the Mandalorian world, which kind of alluded that it maybe won't be about the Mandalorian, and if it is, he'll maybe only flit in and out of it. You know, the whole sort of guild kind of maybe angle might work better.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
if you focus on grief or focus on, I mean, Cara Dune, if they said, let's do a 4-part Cara Dune series from Marvel, everyone would jump up and down and go, yep, all over that. So, yeah.
But as far as it comes to the child, it's like going to be a 50-year-old getting its nappy changed on comic book format. You know, it's just, I don't know what
the 10 variant covers by the hottest artists, and Brian's going to buy them all.
That's what's going to happen. It's literally going to be Peach Momoko, whose variants are going for silly money at the moment because it's the current in thing. And
I don't rate them that much. They're okay.
Yeah, I like them because I've managed to secure quite a few of the Star Wars ones and been able to sell them on for stupid money on eBay. But
fair enough.
Beyond that,
flipping brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantatrax. Voodoo!
We also saw in the UK 3D World magazine have got a new feature cover article all about ILM and the creation of the child for the first series of The Mandalorian. If you haven't seen that magazine on bookshelves yet, do take a look out for it. It is quite niche market magazine, so it may be one you're going to have to hunt for online.
My friend James Clark wrote that article, and he made a point of saying that artwork, the image of the Mando and the child and that on the cover, has not been seen anywhere else, so it's unique artwork on the cover. So,
and if you go to fathertracks.com, hunt out our article on that magazine, you'll get a link to where you can buy it as well, which will be very handy, I think. So the comic book we're reviewing this month is the Bounty Hunter ongoing series from Marvel, written by Ethan Sachs, art by Paolo Vanale. Everyone, what's our general take on the Bounty Hunter so far?
I really like it. I think the artwork's gorgeous. I enjoyed Target Vader, so I'm very much in a Valance mood at the moment. And we actually interviewed Walt Simonson at Empire 40, which will be coming to a later episode of Canon Fodder at some point. And he was one of the first people to draw Valance. So there's kind of a nice old school feel to the character coming back sort of front and centre. And in this, in issue 1, which is the first issue that I read, obviously the only issue I've read, he is not a character to be messed with, but I've got to say the artwork is just so lush. Really is gorgeous. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm looking forward to tucking into the next few issues. It's definitely a keeper, that's for sure.
I've read all 3. I'm really enjoying it. I think it jumps around a bit too much in timelines. It's quite busy. After reading all 3 issues today, there's a lot going on. I think there's maybe too many storylines in the first 3 and then jumping back and forth in time. That I think it's all leading to something big that the gang who did the job earlier will find out what went wrong later on, but they're building up something big, definitely. But good cast of characters, some good creatures and species and stuff, and as Mark said, great artwork. Second print of issue 1 was out this week in comic stores if you missed it. So you can get a kick-ass piece of Boba Fett art on the cover. And yeah, really enjoying it. Really enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. It's quite kinetic and frantic in places. The action's really kind of fast moving. I kind of think that in the first issue, the colouring was kind of slightly muted for the flashback kind of things, and then it got a little bit more vibrant for the obviously what's meant to be the present day, but it doesn't seem to have followed that on so much in the later episodes. And actually, what I really thought was kind of cool was the cameo of Dr. Aphra and Black Costanson in issue 1, and also at the back of issue 2, where they've kind of got that kind of visual dictionary kind of breakout of actually all of Valence's kind of like modifications and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. Kind of gives a little bit more depth to.
In the back of issue 3. That is,
sorry, issue 3. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, issue.
Yeah,
I
the
thought
sort of fact
really
file.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like it's like they do in visual dictionary. They kind of do those kind of like pull out explanations to, like, you know, he's got a cavity in his right forearm so he can install like future weaponry and stuff like that. And yeah, you know, it I guess what it does is it kind of almost creates a slightly more credible character, so that when actually he does pull out some kind of weapon, like he's got a knife in his thigh or something, which hasn't actually got a powered kind of cavity, so you have to press down to access it. So it kind of suggests that, you know, if he gets shot by an iron cannon or something like that, he can kind of still access some kind of weaponry as a last resort. So there's nice kind of background to it.
Weapon, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's that whole kind of more machine, the man kind of take that is slightly more elegant than, say, Vader, who's a, you know, bit kind of like a bit obtuse in that kind of like respects.
Does he predate the Terminator then?
Yeah. Well, he predates the Terminator on screen.
Right.
I mean, I think the novel came out before Valance was created in 78, I think 78, 79, something like that. But yeah, essentially, yeah. I just remember as a kid, you know, when he pulls his face off, basically, and you see all the metal beneath, it was a big moment. And you see that in issue 1, you know, of his face is hanging off. How he gets it all put on again, I don't quite know. But yeah, this is. I'm flicking through it as we're talking, and it's a good start to the series. I'm really looking forward to digging into the next two.
I dug in issue 3. The good few of the characters are COVID safe with masks around their face, even if they're humanoids. You don't need them. Spot that?
I had an initial issue with the series, and from the very first line, where it says the Rebel Alliance is all but defeated after the Battle of Hoth. That's a lie.
Yeah.
Wasn't nearly even remotely defeated. They pretty much got away scot-free. Anyway.
They all got away, didn't they? Near enough.
Yeah. So that kind of got my back up from the start. But
yeah,
to flick over from the intro to the art and the kickoff in Corellia, thought it looked awesome. Loved it. It kind of had quite a few takes from the solo art, from the solo movie art. I thought that their take on Boba Fett was awesome. I thought the art in Boba Fett was brilliant. Loved that throughout the issue. Once again, I'm going to mention it. Comic book sound effects, awesome in this series. We got the brilliant thunk, which is my personal favourite. But we also got a panel that said boom, 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 which every time I see it just makes me want to go, way-oh.
Hey-oh.
Yeah, I thought the kind of crossover with Aphra kind of worked. Characters Bosk looked brilliant. I loved the fact that they dedicated the issue to Alan Harris. I thought that was a lovely touch. So from the initial getting my back up, they really wound me back. I thought Bosk against the Wookiee, whose name forgets me. Someone remind me.
Black Costanson.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Looked brilliant. Loved that. Fett, brilliant.
Good spaceships.
Brilliant
great
spaceships.
Art.
Brilliant backgrounds to the art as well. There was a real depth to it. So I thought it was a brilliant first issue. In terms of the direction that the Bounty Hunter ongoing is heading in, is everyone happy with the general plot of the series?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's one of those ones where it's all going to lead to one big, giant, massive climax, I think.
There's going to be a good big face-off at some point when they all meet up and all try and kill each other and then go, oh, but it was this, and then don't kill anybody because they're all characters you can't kill off.
Yeah, pretty much.
As an ongoing, I kind of feel it has more options than single character focus ongoings, in that you can focus on one character and head in a direction, and you can stop and go back and look at a different character and utilize them instead. So that part of it interests me. I kind of feel it's something that could keep going for quite a while. I would like it to go more into story of the week than one huge narrative
arc.
Yeah. And if there is going to be an overarching arc, which I kind of get, break it down a little bit more so it's more accessible for people.
Yeah, I don't think if you walked into a shop and picked up issue 3, you'd have a Scooby what was going on.
Yeah.
I think it is you need to have bought all the issues so far.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's how I felt after, the gap between issue 1 and 2, which is my own fault for not rereading it before reading 2, because I was like, who, what, where, why? Especially when you because they do tend to just have these quite, I don't know, esoteric kind of names for these crime syndicates, which don't necessarily to me, scream out they're a crime syndicate.
Can't wait for it to come out monthly again so we can remember what the hell's going on.
I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you are following Fantha Tracks.
Issue 2 was out in the UK the week of lockdown, so stores didn't get it till weeks and weeks later. But in America, they had issue 1 and 2 at regular pace, and then issue 3 for them was a big long gap. So anybody listening will understand us completely in the fact that, it's been a long while coming.
Talking of things that are coming up soon, over the coming month, we've got a whole host of Star Wars publications coming out. A lot of them closely tied to when Celebration was going to be. So if I run through the list very quickly, you guys can tell me what you're looking forward to. We've got The Rise of Kylo Ren coming out on trade paperback from Marvel. Darth Vader issue 4. The Empire Strikes Back is going to have action figure variant. We've got How to Speak Astromech with BB-8. Children's book from Chronicle. Bounty Hunters.
With Art by?
Yeah. Our good friend Jake.
Yep.
Bounty Hunters issue 4. The Clone Wars Battle Tales issue 4 from IDW. Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith volume 2 in hardcover from Marvel. The aforementioned The Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark anthology coming out from Disney Lucasfilm Press. The Rise of Skywalker is finally going to get its Little Golden Book adaptation. Dr. Aphra issue 3 will be out on the 26th of August, along with the Star Wars Adventures Annual 2020 with our good friend Nick Brokenshire doing the variant cover to that one. Titan will have their anniversary special on The Empire Strikes Back. Mr. Newbold, have you anything on that?
I don't know because they don't tell me. Hopefully, I did. I was involved heavily in the 30th anniversary issue of Empire back in 2010. Put a bunch of interviews in there, so there could be some stuff in, but I won't know till I get it in my hands.
Oh, well, nervous excitement there. Star Wars Legends Epic Collection Rebellion Volume 4 comes out in trade paperback from Marvel on the 1st of September, along with, finally, will be in our hands, Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising from Del Rey on the 1st of September. So there's a whole load of Star Wars publications at last hitting bookstores, hitting comic stores. What out of that list are you guys most looking forward to?
That's a good question.
The Jake book showed me others.
I'd like to say all of it. Probably, weirdly, and I'm quite serious about this. The Little Golden Book, the Rise of Skywalker Little Golden Book, because I really think they're awesome little books, and I'm still gutted they never did a Rogue One book, but I can't imagine why. But yeah,
hey kids, they'll die.
Exactly. Spoiler alert. But no, I'm genuinely looking forward to that. I just think the artwork in them's gorgeous. In fact, W.H. Smith at the moment have got a sale on. They did Egmont did like UK reprints of them, not with soft cover UK reprints. Picked up a few of those the other day. Worth it just for the artwork. So I
had the Ashley Eckstein one in the shop last week. I've got it in stack to read. The Ashley Eckstein one.
Yeah.
came in, and I was like, I've got to read that 'cause it's Ashley, and it's like they're lovely little books. I've got a stack of different ones in the shop.
Yeah,
the American ones because we get them in through Diamond Comics, bring them into the UK, and they're just really nice.
I do need to get that one. Yeah, I definitely need to get the Ashley one. Yeah,
put it in your folder.
Good lad.
What are you looking forward to, Mulcaster and Cameron?
The Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary collector's edition. That would be good. And yeah, just any comics that are actually going to be able to get into my little grubby little hands, I think. So
it shouldn't be grubby. You should be washing them regularly.
Wow, yeah, I rely too much on like hand sanitizer, clearly. So probably the comics. I mean, I've kind of had to slim down the amount of kind of books I buy, so I don't buy any of the kind of children's books anymore, unfortunately. Maybe I might make an exception and collect the little golden books because they have been. I mean, a lot of people said that they do look really good. So
they do.
Maybe I can get the girlfriend to read that to me, at bedtime or something. I don't know. Make it kind of justify the purchase.
As long as she does all the voices.
You can, if you.
Otherwise, what's the point?
If you want the little golden books, there is going to be a collection of them coming out at the end of September for episodes 1 through 9, and a little golden book library. It's going to be called.
Definitely get that.
Yeah, I'll pick that up.
For me, there's a couple of things in there that I'm looking forward to. I always like the IDW annuals. I think they've done a great job with them in the past, so I'm definitely going to be picking up that, especially seeing as Nick Brokenshire is doing a cover to it. Interesting to see what Titan have in the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. Not been a huge amount of publicity surrounding that release, so intrigued. I do like the things that go behind the scenes, and the interviews in there are always great, so I'll be picking that up. But obviously, Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising is something that I'm particularly looking forward to, and we'll see what Timothy Zahn brings to it this time.
Can I just say before we roll out that I've just had a look because I was certain that Terminator was based on something other than just the James Cameron thing, and it was based on a Harlan Ellison story called Demon with a Glass Hand. That was always the rumor, and it actually got mentioned in the credits. They acknowledged Ellison's work, but Ellison actually said that he didn't think Terminator was based on Demon with a Glass Hand. He actually thought it was based on another story that he wrote for the Outer Limits called Soldiers. But whichever way you cut it, they did borrow, I'm doing the air quotes, borrow elements from Harlan Ellison stories of the 60s. So, but whichever way around it is, the visual look of the Terminator was so striking, wasn't it? You kind of think of Arnie in that role. It's everybody steals from everybody else. I'm sure Shakespeare stole from somebody.
And on that note, we'll be back next month. Thanks for listening to this month's Canon Fodder. If you want to be part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com and download the Fanthatracks app to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. And remember to comment, like, share and subscribe on all our social medias at Fanthatracks. Leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcaster or smart speaker of choice.
Coming up next on Fanthatracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.